While I would love for Counter-Strike to get some of its old game modes back, or some new ones of its own, I'd settle right now for improvements to its existing game modes. Namely, Deathmatch mode, or as I like to call it, Get Shot in the Back Repeatedly simulator. The typical experience is something like this. You spawn and immediately die 3 times in a row, then you spawn and spend 30 seconds running about not seeing anybody, and then the moment you do see someone, they immediately die to somebody else, and then they spawn behind you and kill you immediately. And then 3 big burly men come onto you from 3 different entrances and spit roast you to death. I'm fine with all this for a few minutes, and then I grow increasingly frustrated with it, wonder if it's a conspiracy of some sort, and then eventually rage quit, feeling unfulfilled. There was a post on Reddit a year ago which documented every situation you'd regularly find yourself in, and it resonated deeply with me, like spawning next to a camping player and having the dilemma that you're screwed the moment you move or shoot. Or how about this? 2 people spawning with spawn protection, waiting to see who reacts first. Or how about a guy spawning between 2 players who are already engaged in combat? Or spawning right behind someone who probably just checked and ran past where you're currently stood, which is great for you but not so great or fair for him. Really, it's amazing these glaring problems exist in Deathmatch. Maybe we should force all Valve employees to play an hour of Deathmatch mode. Maybe then they'll feel invested in fixing it. Recently, Pastaman posted another popular post outlining the problems with the current Deathmatch model. He points out some stuff that Valve could easily address, like shortening the death black screen, or to have instant reload, or instant heal. And he points out the absurdity of trying to administer a health syringe on a crowded server. Something that's probably a bit harder to address when there are 20 people running about a map designed for 10 is the issue of spawn protection, and in repeatedly spawning in close proximity to other players. The whole dynamic of freshly spawned players right next to where you stood just breaks up the flow of Deathmatch, makes you paranoid, makes it less about aiming and more about just knowing where the spawn points are. But then, reduce the player numbers and you risk an empty feeling server where you don't have enough regular targets to practice against. It's almost as though Deathmatch mode would be better off with custom made maps designed for that kind of game mode. Because almost every official map has some areas that are just too far out from everywhere, and if you spawn there you just waste all your time running back into the action again. It was fine while you could commit suicide and quickly spawn to somewhere else, but with that feature now removed from Counter-Strike, it's just an added lesson in frustration. Valve are clearly capable of fixing stuff. Less than a month ago they updated Deathmatch to allow for unbalanced teams. Because why should you be forced onto CT and stuck with an M4 if you want to practice with an AK and so on? So maybe if we moan and whine enough about other bits of this game mode, Valve will also fix those things, please. For inspiration, I visited a custom community server. You can tell because it has Quake sound effects. Dominating! Yay. And it did a few awesome things that made the experience a million times better. For instance, killing an enemy would automatically replenish all of your magazine's ammo. It would also heal you by 15 HP, meaning that if you're good enough you could just keep going on and on and on without having to worry about healing. And when you did eventually die, you could instantly respawn, which actually annoyed me at first because I'd instinctively hammer the fire buttons to force a respawn, which on this server simply scoped in my sniper rifle. But instant respawns is a cool feature that I'd quickly grow accustomed to. I get why permadeath, health management and tactical reloading exists in Counter-Strike for, say, defuse mode, but I don't think they have a place in Deathmatch. They merely serve as inconveniences, and with all of these irritations gone, I didn't miss any of them at all. Something else I noticed that wasn't so immediately apparent was that I didn't feel the urgency to perform well. I don't know what it is about official servers, but I think because they only last for 10 minutes and the scoreboards only show what you've done within that time, I always felt the panic and need to do well, and to avoid looking bad and at the back of the pack. But playing on this community server did away with that. They seemed to remember scores and ratings from past games, so I didn't really care if I was bottom when I had just joined. I'd probably still be bottom after several hours. The Deathmatch experience on this server just felt like more of a continuous and endless aim training exercise, especially with the match lasting 60 minutes instead of 10, which also did away with the immediate need for me to do well. I know that these are only psychological differences, and also the people on these community servers were there because they wanted to be there. They actively had to go out of their way to reach these servers, as opposed to being on official servers with their incentives to play, experience to gain and unlockables for bots to farm. The feeling on these custom servers was just different, and yet it didn't remedy all of the annoying traits of Deathmatch mode. There were the same irritating kill steal moments and instant death from an unseen enemy as you're dueling somebody else. I guess at the end of the day, Deathmatch is still Deathmatch mode, and you can't hope to fix everything about it without it no longer being recognisable as the Deathmatch mode that we all love and hate it for already. A more controversial feature that some community servers have is slay if camping, which is there to discourage spawn camping, hiding away, and idlers. But I've known it in the past to slap me about for simply brief lapses in my frantic rushing around. And to me it feels like something that may have good intentions but ends up punishing the wrong sorts of people. And while it's happily slapping about those who are naive or innocent, the people it's there to actually punish will probably be sly enough to figure out workarounds to it. So what could Valve do to improve Deathmatch mode, other than just to copy third-party servers, or to replace Deathmatch with a community browser? Valve could maybe do weekly rotations of mutations to the Deathmatch mode to experiment with new stuff and to see what works. Stuff like maybe pistols only, headshot only mode. They could try Team Deathmatch where teams spawn from their official spawn points on proper maps. Or maybe they could swap the map pool for arms race maps, which are maybe better intended for Deathmatch style gameplay. So it becomes sort of like arms race but without the race. They could experiment with ranked deathmatch, though I've always assumed there's some sort of hidden ranking going on behind the scenes already. But we might have to face the fact that deathmatch mode cannot actually be fixed, nor return to what it used to be like. Maybe the problem isn't with the game mode, but with the player base's ever-growing skill levels. Just like how hostage mode fell out of favour 25 years ago, as defuse mode gained popularity and eventually became king, maybe the joy of deathmatch comes in part from the average player's skill level on the server being lower, and where random variants can play a larger part in every engagement. But maybe once the skill level of the player base becomes high enough, it highlights the issues and limitations with the maps and game modes more intensely, and begins detracting from the joy those more casual game modes used to deliver in the first place. So at risk of sounding like a total noob, maybe bots can be used. Maybe they can be used to balance a more casual experience. I mean, we all enjoy playing aim maps against bots for the target practice. Maybe online deathmatch mode could strike a happy balance between bot only and human only. I still love jumping into Red Orchestra Rising Storm from time to time. Obviously I only play Hiroshima, being the best map in existence. It's so open, so intuitive, and yet I always feel safe on it no matter where I am. But being an older game now, it's becoming more reliant on bots to populate the servers. But join a bot-only server and it isn't long before other real people also begin to populate it. And there's a sweet spot where the ratio of bots to real humans is maybe about 6 to 1. It's still enough to let every player have their moments of glory, popping bot heads left, right and centre, and to feel like they're making a meaningful difference to the battlefield's outcome. But with a few human players dotted about, there's also the rivalry that comes from getting annihilated by the same person 3 times in a row. So maybe bots could help improve deathmatch mode. Or maybe I just suck at the game. Maybe the real fix to deathmatch is simply to get good. Gooder than everybody else. And maybe then I'll enjoy it again.